Good day, everybody. My name is Dana Massett with the Mindful Mama podcast and A Sun Your Soul. And today I'm interviewing the Moon Lady astrologist, Malorine Mathurin. She's an intuitive astrologer who uses her clairvoyant abilities, tarot, numerology, divinity readings with her clients. She has studied many forms of divinity and spirituality through her Caribbean roots and ancestry. She has been an astrologer for over 25 years. Welcome, Malorine. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited. Your bio was so fun to read, so I have so many questions to ask. When did you realize that you were gifted? Was it when you were a kid? Was it later in life? When did you start noticing like I'm different?
Oh, well, thank you for having me as well.
Yes.
Oh wow, it's making me kind of blush. Yeah, I mean, um, I mean, when I was younger, I didn't really see it as a gift. It was kind of one of those. It actually used to scare me, to be honest. When I was about 5 or 6, maybe probably even younger, I had always had really bad insomnia, and grew up in my family, and I was my room was always in the back by the attic, and I couldn't sleep because in my mind there were people kind of running in and out of the bathroom and making noise and putting light on, and not realizing that actually my family was like, we're not doing that. Like we don't know what's happening.
Yes.
So my great grandmother, who was alive at the time, she passed away when I was about 18. So I was really thankful to have her in my life. But she realized what was happening. She was like, okay, wow. So she kind of like, talked me through it and said, you have to, if you're dreaming and they're coming towards you, you have to like be very forceful and tell them, no, you can't show up now. And I was like, well, I can't say that. I was like really young. I was
Right.
like, yeah, but you told me not to curse, and you told me not to say this. She was like, no, you have to do this. You have to be like strong about it.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. From that time on, she just kind of helped me. That I was definitely clairaudient, first and foremost. I would
Okay.
hear people calling my name, and she always told me like not to respond, and she just told me like little tips and tricks, and then from there, um, growing up in New York as well, she's Afro Caribbean. We went to a lot of botanicas, and of course, me being a child, I didn't really know what they were. I just know there were these fun places, in my mind, fun, where there were other kids there, and she would go for her weekly tarot reading, and the other kids would just hang out in the back, and we would just like play with tarot cards. And um, I ended up working. My first job was at a botanica, which is kind of like where people can get similar to like an apothecary or something now, where
Yes.
people kind
Yeah.
of like, yeah. And there are also some botanicas that are still around in New York, and mostly the Bronx, Brooklyn. And you can get like your candles, dressed, and tarot cards, and little pendulums and things like that. So
What a
that's very
cool
much.
first job. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize at the time. I mean, it was something where I think it was my grandmother's friend because she went there quite often, like her grandmother. So she was like, "Oh yeah, I was 10. She's like, you want to just show up every weekend and just kind of help us with these candles?" And I learned how to dress candles, and I learned how to like which herbs were which, and I was always reading. So that's how I kind of got into this too. I had my first tarot deck at like 6 or 7, and I'd play around with it, and I would say, okay, what does this symbol mean? And I would look it up in the books. I was like, oh, okay, this means that. I would apply it to, like, they taught me how to do readings and how
Yeah.
to, like dress candles. And so I just kind of like learned piece by piece. And then astrology came with that because I would look at the symbols, like, what is that? Oh, that's Mars. What is Mars? And, then from there, I was always really inquisitive. I would, um, like my grandmother had she had a stack of National Geographic magazines. I would really reference
Yes.
those, and
Yes.
I would read through them like from cover to cover. I love to read and I love to explore. So yeah, I think that kind of, if you're in this work, it kind of research does kind of come with that because you do have to like follow up on things, and
You
so
do. Yeah. Like
yeah.
I see sacred geometry shapes a lot in my sessions, so I have to constantly look them up and what they mean spiritually. Obviously, you know that your gifts are in your lineage. Do you know how far these gifts run? Like great great grandmother? Like obviously your mom was gifted because she was able to train you how to handle your gifts.
Yeah, I've been working on this through the Akashic Records, and I feel like it really goes really far back. I feel like I'm working both with ancestry as well as past life
Yeah,
gifts. So it's kind of a combination of both things. And within ancestry, I have had a couple of I know distant ancestors. I don't know who they are in particular, but being from the Caribbean, my ancestry is quite a mixed bag.
yeah,
And there's a woman that comes to me, and she's quite frail. She's a little bit smaller, older woman. She has really long, gray, straight hair. My grandfather, my mother's side of the family is from Trinidad, so they have a lot of an Indian relatives from India.
yeah,
So she to me, she looks like she's from India, and she comes to me a lot. Um, she comes and she kind of gives me something profound to say, or she just kind of shows up sometimes.
yeah,
I know that she doesn't say much. She just kind of like her presence is there. Um, so it's just something that kind of like, okay, where is this woman coming from? And then I kind of did some research, and I'm thinking that she is probably a really back relative. And it's only so far I can go back in terms of like records and things. But yeah, past life information, I definitely do get a lot of connections to like Europe and like Celtic magic. So that comes up a lot for me, and that kind of threw me off a little bit too, because like you said, the sacred symbols. When I was younger, I would see runes, and I would see these images, and I would draw them, and I would ask my great grandmother like, "What was that?" And she's like, "Oh, well, that's not, I don't know, it's nothing that she's seen." So we look up together and then finding out that they were like rune symbols. So that's something I've always felt a really close connection to like England and Germany in particular. Um, I lived in England for 12 years, and I felt like I had been there before. I lived in
yeah,
different parts of England, and it was very much, and that's the thing too, a lot of people, when you connect to like the past life energy, it kind of like blows your mind because we get really focused on the ancestry, and we're like, oh wow, there's so much other things out there we can incorporate into our work. So yeah, I love using runes because of that.
yes. I
And
have a
yeah.
friend that's super into it and he makes his own. It's so cool.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, there's other lifetimes, there's other dimensions. And that's what I was going to ask you too.
Mhm.
Because it sounds like your other lifetimes are coming out. Like even how you're researching, I just get this feeling that you already know the wisdom. It's inside of you. You just have to remember it. Does it feel like that when you're seeing these symbols and doing the research?
Oh yeah, definitely. And then a lot of times when I'm an Aquarius, so I can really do a deep dive. So I research all of these like ancient books online, and I'm looking through like the emerald tablets and like the Magdalene manuscripts, and I'm going through and I'm combing through things, and I'll read something like, this feels so familiar. Like, why do I feel like I know this? And it's like going into it more, and then that goes into another spiral. It's almost like going into like a YouTube trap, or like it's kind of going into the spiral, and it's never ending.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I have like on my iPad, I have like literally hundreds of books that I have on my to read list, and I'm like, I'm never gonna read all these books, and I don't know when I'm gonna read
Yes.
them, but
Yes. It's difficult. Um, when you fully kind of went into astrology or so-called like took that path and publicly open yourself up to clients, how was your friends and family? Was it no surprise to them? Were they kind of surprised? What was their reaction?
Um, oh, that's interesting. So I kind of publicly started doing readings, making it a business, like a proper business, about 3 years ago. And circumstances were very interesting because I was living in England, and sorry, I think I speak so, and
Oh,
I
you're
came
fine.
because of surgery. So it just became it was almost like the universe was like forcing me to come back, which
Yeah.
is so definitely, yeah, my family, uh, yeah, because it was my great grandmother, and she passed on when I was 18. So the rest of my family, mother's very conventional, all about education, all about, straight laced kind of thing. So she doesn't really um, kind of like, when I talk about it, she's just like, oh yeah, okay, and then she just like changes the subject, and just like, it's, and my
Yes.
very Catholic. It's funny because recently I brought some sage over and I was staging the house and she was like, "What is that smell? Is that like, are you an Obia woman?" So Obia is in the Caribbean someone who practices witchcraft. No, so it's like, yeah,
Yes.
Obia woman. Like,
I've
yeah,
been called a witch too. I'm used to
yeah.
it. Yeah.
I've given up on it, to be honest. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's, my family hasn't really responded necessarily. I think they still don't really understand what I do. They don't really ask questions necessarily. And I feel like it's not my place to like push it on them. So I don't really talk about it either unless they ask. My sister, every now and then, kind of similar to my mom, very much into like straight life. And every now and she's like, "Can you like post some cards for me on this?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay. I feel honored." I'm like, "I'll just post
Yeah,
some
you're
cards."
like, yes.
Yeah. But they and then my mother would be like, "Oh, I had this dream. What do you think about this?" And I would tell her, and then when I talk about it again, it's like it's just like a never. Yeah, I don't really think they understand what I do or the concept of it, but that's I've I've learned to
But
just.
that's enough. Like them asking you in those moments, because I can relate to that. My mom and my sister are born again Christians, so they kind of close to the work that I do. But I also do cranial sacral therapy. And I noticed my sister, when she started having kids, she started opening up to that because she wanted me to work on her daughters for some like little challenges that they were facing. And again, for me, I was same with you. I'm like, absolutely. Like, let me
Mhm.
show up for you the way that you need me to. And it's a little way to kind of like connect us and to release the thought that I'm doing witchcraft. Like, I'm a normal human being helping to heal people, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I just kind of take it. Like I said, I just take it as it is. And like you said, your sister, like if she needs it, she needs it. If she doesn't, and yeah, I don't like make a big fuss at like Thanksgiving and like, I don't like, bring my own. It's like actually this is like, sour and we're practicing, we're doing this and it's not, so I don't like force it on them unless they ask. But yeah,
It's
I've
good
learned.
to be flexible and open and accepting that there's so many different paths of healing and there's so many intentions of people's reincarnation on this earth. So it doesn't mean that everyone that gets reincarnated has this divine purpose in that sense of healing. Sometimes it's some people would call it like a mediocre life, and it's perfect. Like exactly the lessons everyone's learning is
Mhm.
completely perfect. Now, working with clients, what struggles are clients typically facing or presenting to you to get help with?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was actually really interested in that myself recently, actually, because I've kind of been on like robotic, not to robotic mode, but kind of like almost like an engine for the last year, just seeing clients and just like, doing classes and almost not really reflecting on anything. Not
Yeah.
saying anything, but just like for myself, I'm just focusing on other people, like helping, especially with, 2020 was really hard for everyone. So going back now, I have like a client feedback form, and I was looking back and saying, okay, what do people like? What do they come to me for? And a lot of it was clarity. That was the key word. Clarity was the first one, and definitely just like in life purpose is always another one. And especially when I'm doing like when I do my readings, I do a mixture of things. So I do astrology, I do tarot, but I also incorporate like scrying and like mediumship work if needed, whatever comes up for that person. So I get a lot of people, say some people who come in like, oh, I want to know about love. And I'm like, actually, the cards are telling me it's not about love. It's something else. It's something deeper.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. And then that will also show up in their relationship. So I like to kind of, but the biggest word I've seen is clarity. I feel like possibly my approach and the way that I work with clients, because I like to keep it open ended, like, kind of seeing, okay, what comes up? What is the underlying issue behind all of this? And dealing with that, dealing with the idea of like these past life connections and what do you bring into this life? I like to look at that, and that seems to be something that comes up a lot for me in my sessions. So, um, yeah, I would say the clarity and just kind of, I like to kind of leave them with some sort of the tools and information to be able to move forward and to feel at peace and feel calm and to feel like they can conquer whatever issue they
Yes.
have, challenge they have. That's my biggest uh, goal. That's my goal for every client to be able, to have them feel safe and heard, understood. Um,
I
and
love that.
yeah.
I notice a lot of healers and readers and mediums have tapped into, almost, if you want to call it like the channel of Mother Earth or the channel of the collective consciousness, about why COVID is happening, or even why there's just so much that we're kind of conquering and chaos and old paradigms breaking through. Did you do some channeling and reading kind of when COVID started, of why is this happening? What's going on for
Yeah.
yourself?
Really interesting. Yeah, good question. It was interesting because I was before COVID, I was doing a lot of workshops and obviously in person, and I did a lot of moon workshops, sort of month like bi-weekly, new moon, full moon workshops. And I remember we had might have been a full moon in Virgo, maybe like maybe, I can't remember when it was, but it was something Virgo related. Might have been the fall, so most likely it was Virgo, maybe it was Scorpio. I can't remember what it was. We did it in
Yeah,
a class, and I remember it was right before the new year. So yeah, it was something, and we were talking about health, and we were talking, and I kept saying like, I don't know, I'm just getting like all these messages that something big in 2020 is something health related. And I was like, okay, I don't know what's coming up, but it was
yeah,
interesting. And then January kind of came around, and then January happened. I remember we had a really hot day. I can't remember what day it was, but it was like a few like first 2 weeks of January, and just like this is gonna be a weird year. I don't know what it was. It was like
yeah,
a 70 degree 70 forgive me, 70-degree day
yeah,
in January in New York. It was like unheard of. And just like
yes,
it was weird. It was a weird day. And I just said, okay, let me just do some research on this. And I did some like channeling, and I didn't get any information at first. It was a lot of like almost like, not to be like it was a surprise, but it was almost like to prepare. And the thing is, for me, I tend to be very organized, and like things are kind of prepared in advance. So I like
yes.
to plan my courses at least 6 months in advance, and who I'm working with. I work for different places, but something told me in February, it said, don't plan anything. And I was like, what? I can't do that. I'm an
Whoa.
Aquarius. I need to know exactly my planner. It has to be like, I need some stuff in my planner. And they were like, no, you have to trust us. Don't plan anything. And I had a workshop actually in Louisiana in March, end of March. And I was about to buy the tickets in early March, and they said, no, don't buy the tickets. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I was trusting it. I was like, okay. I'm very stubborn about it, and I do it anyway, and then I feel the repercussions. But I didn't do it. I listened. I didn't buy the tickets. I didn't plan anything for March. And I remember people were asking me, like, why didn't you plan a course for March? And I was like, I don't know, something's telling me not to. And I'm like, I'm just not going to. And lo and behold, and then also too, I had a roommate in Brooklyn, and it wasn't very like, no, it wasn't a bad situation, but it was I wasn't feeling well. So something said, go to my mother's house, and I packed like a good amount of things and said, pack some clothes, pack your things, pack your books, and take a couple suitcases and go to your mother's house. And it was, I think, March 17th, and it might have been like right before the lockdown.
Yeah,
Um, and I was like, okay, I'm following this through. And I think I went back to the house to get a few more things end of March, but then I pretty much spent lockdown with my family. And yeah, it was one of those things I was like, wow, I'm really just trusting it right now. And I normally, for me,
yes,
I'm very stubborn. So I second guess, like, no, let me just try this. They're like, no, we told you this. Um,
yes,
but yeah, and just throughout COVID, I was not, definitely wasn't saying like I got a lot of clouded energy, like it wasn't telling me what was happening. But then towards the end, it was really saying like this was like a collective, a rising of the collective vibration. It almost had to be so dramatic because to slow us down, to get us, and it, definitely COVID affected everyone differently. You see a
yeah,
lot of people, definitely lost their jobs, which is unfortunate. And people, moving, and relationships were challenged, having kids at home. I don't have children, and my heart goes out to, parents that had to like homeschool their kids.
yes,
But yeah, they said that all of these, I felt like, especially my clients, a lot of people who were dealing with stuff was the stuff that they had buried deep down and they were
100%.
releasing.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So, and even
And it
politically, yeah. Sorry.
politically, no, absolutely. And it is that we got so disconnected. I mean, we're still disconnected, let's get real, but we really got disconnected. Even children being signed up to like 2 to 3 sports in the same season. So we're running the kid here. We're running, like, I always thought, because I wasn't that parent, I was a more like chill, relaxed parent. And I'm like, how can these people function this way? When do they like actually have a conversation with their kid?
Mhm.
It's too much. So it really kind of stopped the world and put us all back together. So you couldn't really escape in the ways that we did, whether the escape was busyness, affairs, work, substances. If it was substances, it was definitely in everybody's face. You know, we couldn't hide the way that we could. So I think it was very healing, is very healing, and traumatic too. You know, there's some pain there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And like I said, I know my heart goes out to parents because I'm not a parent, but
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it definitely. I mean, I wouldn't. It's not my place. I'm not, judging anybody's style of parenting, but yeah, I feel like I've gotten a lot of clients who were parents, and they had to like reconfigure how their day went with their kids, and actually
Yes.
made them grow a lot stronger. A lot of relationships got stronger as well. Some people who got fired from jobs or left their jobs were actually really, I didn't like start the job in the first place. Why was I there?
Right.
Like, now I can start my business. Now I can actually do my Etsy thing on the side, which I really want to do anyway. It's like,
Right.
it was really so interesting. And I feel like, and I wouldn't call myself like a first line worker, but I mean, there was a lot of people who were still working through all of this, myself included. And I feel like for some of us, we were actually being asked to step up and to
100%. Yeah.
like we were in the front line. I feel like, healers, paramedics, nurses, doctors, we all are healers in that sense. I mean, everyone is a healer, but in terms of like your job and what you're doing, I feel like we were really being asked, like, challenged. And yeah, it's so interesting. It's really interesting. And even now I feel like almost a lot of the first line workers, I feel like almost exhausted now. Kind of coming into this year, I was like, okay, I've kind of a little burnt out, and I'm like kind of like de-stressing in my own way. But
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Me too. Like I was so busy during that whole time and it just kept getting more and more. And I just had two small vacations recently and I'm like, okay, after these vacations, I'm gonna feel 100%.
Mhm.
I think I'm in burnout. I'm
Mhm.
thinking that I need to take like a month off or something, but I definitely, again, the healers, the mental health, the first line workers, I feel like they definitely were called to step up to the plate and take on more than they were normally used to taking on and still managing their family lives. Um, how what's next on the horizon for you? Because from what I could hear, you would do some kind of workshops in person, you would travel different places. What are you working on? What are you kind of offering to the world that people can sign up to or check out?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Great question. I am sort of like I am taking some time to reflect and to reassess how I'm doing this. Obviously, doing courses, I've had a great time doing it on Zoom. So I do
Yeah,
want to continue this, and I love the fact that I can see clients from all over the world, and I love that interaction. So I want to maintain that. So I've been definitely, especially with my research now, especially being called more into more secret texts and using more like I am an energy worker, so I'm a Reiki master and IAT master, and I do use that within my work, but it's more like astrology is at the forefront and tarot's at the forefront. So I want to kind of integrate more of the Akashic records and more of the energy work into my courses. So
okay,
and I train to do hypnosis and things that I kind of never really. I still use it, but I don't use it as much. So
yeah,
I'm trying to integrate more of that and still do the astrology as well. So I'm kind of like reconfiguring how I want to be seen in the public eye, especially like with social media, taking a little break from that because I feel like there was a lot of things just kind of being repeated verbatim from other sources. And I kind of want to bring something different, something new, something that would bring again clarity, that wasn't just a repeat of like 20 other posts you've just seen.
yeah.
Um,
And new energy. It's like it is healers kind of have to come back to themselves and self-reflect and recreate. Because if we're just kind of offering the same thing, it's like we get bored with it too. Like I need to like offer something new because it gives me new life. What's your website? What's your Instagram, people? How can people find you to kind of keep an eye on you and see what you create?
Yeah. So, yeah, I am kind of reconfiguring my website. So I will be relaunching it at the end of April. So it'll be moonladyastrology.com. Um,
Awesome.
and my Instagram is also Moon Lady Astrology. I am, yeah, kind of moving into the Twitterverse. I'm trying to figure out what that is like. I
Yeah,
still don't really get Twitter. I don't really know. Maybe I'm too old. I don't know what it is, but I'm trying that. And the same, it'll all be Moon Lady Astrology. But the Instagram is probably the best way. And then my email, 130moonlady at gmail.com, or moonladeastrology at gmail.com is probably the best. I answer
perfect.
quickly. Um,
Yeah, I can resonate with Twitter too. I'm like, it's like I kind of get it, but I just post a couple things there, here and there. But I'm like, is anybody still on there? And we know there's people still on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining me today. So excited to chat with you. And I know people are really going to enjoy listening to our conversation. And I can't wait to see what you come up with and create. I know it's going to be amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.